All right, this is a really cool interview. I'm excited to bring it to you guys. There is a new film, horror film, out on Prime Video and Apple TV called The Vindicator. Now, I will be the first to admit I am not a horror person at all, which people find very strange, that I love true crime, don't like horror. To me, they're very different, but this one crosses over in my worlds. This is called The Vindicator. The plot is a serial killer hijacks a live true crime podcast and forces the hosts into these nightmarish tasks that expose their darkest secrets. And if they do it right, it offers them the opportunity to unmask who the killer is. It's a very interesting plot. I've watched about half of the movie so far, and it is really interesting. It all takes place in Arizona. Why? Because the director is from Arizona. And so I got to learn a lot more about how he was able to put this film together. His name's Luca Patruno. He's got a pretty inspiring story with just even his schooling to get to this point to put together a film. And there was a lot of strife they went through, a lot of challenges, a lot of setbacks to even get this film off the ground at all. But to actually have this feature film debut, his directorial debut on Prime Video and Apple TV is pretty incredible. And he's already got another movie in the works that they're also filming here in Arizona. So this is really cool. The Vindicator, Luca Patruno, he's going to tell you all about how they made this movie, what went into it, and why it's so important. The one part I will say, as a little tease before you get into this, I actually studied interviews with serial killers to learn more about how their actors would portray this in the movie. I thought that was super fascinating. Here's my interview with Luca Patruno. I am joined by Luca Patruno, the director of The Vindicator, this new horror film about a true crime podcast that piqued my interest immediately when I saw it. And this is your directorial debut with a feature film on Prime Video and Apple TV. That is huge. And I'm curious how you went from, studying film directing to now getting to this point. It's not easy.
No, not at all. And there's really no one path to get there. Like they don't really teach you that in school because nobody really has that answer. So yeah, it was graduated in 2017 from Chapman University, which right now I think is number 4 in the country, thanks to probably Stranger Things because the Duffer Brothers went there. But yeah, then it was a lot of cold calls, cold emails, not getting a lot of responses, and then you get projects kind of off the ground. And I actually got an agent like a year into living in LA, and that didn't really work out because then you're like, oh, now all the doors are going to open, and they really don't.
Yeah.
But so yeah, then it's like you get a little further, then falls through. You get a little further the next time, falls through. So me and my writing partner on The Vindicator, Cameron, we were like, all right, we have to maybe do this ourselves, and how do we make that happen? So we wrote this kind of more contained movie, and we got interest from a group of investors, and they excuse me, had hired me to write a script. That one fell through. So they were like, okay, we have this money. How do we, we want to make a movie. It's COVID. And then we were like, well, we have this script. They loved it. And actually 2 months before we shot the film, they pulled out. And so
Oh, God.
it was like, me and him were very like kind of cautiously optimistic. How do we, like, we were there, but it's like until you're on set, till contracts are signed, nothing's official. And so kind of almost back to square one. And for me, it was like, okay, the plan now is what's the minimum I can make this movie for? Go work, save it, and just go make it. You got to get your first one done. No one's going to think you can make a feature until you do it. And so that was the plan. I got a job doing photography at a fashion company out in Glendale, and guaranteed hours, guaranteed pay. It was great. Took about 7 months to save that money. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, then along the way, actually, just a gentleman that my dad had known from maybe like the 70s that he went to college with his brother. He had just happened to move out here recently to Arizona, um, and was like, I love horror. Let me look at this script, and I'm interested in investing. I'm interested in trying this kind of path out. And he just kind of came along and was like, what do you need to make this movie? And I was like, well, ideally more than I already have. And he just, um, came through for us and was just very hands off, but very supportive and just like, hey, just go make your movie. And
Wow.
it ended up being just something really a lot bigger and a lot more exciting than than we thought it could be.
Well, and the plot is fascinating to probably a lot of people.
Mhm.
I've watched about half of it. I'm notoriously not a horror person. I love true crime, but I cannot do horror films. It is a weird
Yeah.
thing about me. But the plot kind of caters to a lot of different people. It's not just horror and gore. This is kind of a mystery. It's got that true crime podcast aspect to it that people are
Mhm.
fascinated about. It's got a serial killer, a mysterious serial killer. How did you come up with this kind of theme, this plot, and then did it take any directions you didn't expect it to?
Yeah. So with coming up with it, me and Cameron, again, my writing partner, like at the time, especially during the lockdowns with COVID, true crime has always been kind of like a big thing, but then podcasts really started to become,
Yeah.
super popular. And we were like, okay, how do we take this kind of phenomena and this medium and translate that into a feature film? Because, we'd seen like some other projects. I think Only Murders in the Building was like kind of starting to come out. The
Yeah.
Chucky show, yeah, the Chucky show was starting to, they had like kind of like a podcaster, but it wasn't like necessarily like sit down and watch a podcast sequence. It was just like kind of like little moments of the show or the movie. And we're like, okay, well, this will help it we be contained, and it also, but then it was like, okay, how do we make this compelling? And we also don't have the budget because Saw is a very big inspiration of the movie. Um, and but it was like we don't have the budget to like cut people's limbs off like right off the bat. Like we got to kind of build up to it, and so it became more of this psychological uh, horror than anything. And so that was like kind of like a way to not mask the low budget, but kind of like play up what I think is more scary is like kind of not really knowing the people that you're closest to, and like you think the danger is outside, but the danger and the horror is like kind of really inside there, just with them amongst them.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that was like the big the big thing of that, and then yeah, go ahead.
So you almost let a lower budget be used to your advantage with kind of a different
Mm.
way of storytelling, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just especially coming in the horror from the horror world, I've even in writing, I just noticed like telling a more contained story is also like almost more difficult than telling like a big blockbuster.
Sure.
Just writing it, because then it's like, how do I make this one location with three actors like engaging for 90 minutes? And so that was like something that we really try to make sure we did, especially in the long podcast sequences. It's like, all right, they're talking for it's talking heads for
Hmm.
10 minutes or whatever it is. It's got to be interesting. It's got to be engaging. Obviously, it's got to move the story and the characters like forward.
Yeah.
So that was like a big challenge like in itself. And then I think the biggest thing I kind of took away of how it shifted was I'm a big fan of movies that are like Seven and The Strangers and Silence of the Lambs, where it's like just like a straight kind of dark, serious movie the entire time, tonally. And then when we were shooting and kind of talking with the actors and seeing how the three of them, their chemistry was just so great on and off screen, it almost became a little bit more lighthearted and not comedic, but like they had their moments of being
Right.
comedic. And I was like, okay, like let's lean into that versus try to make it something that like it's maybe not wanting to be. And so
Right.
that was kind of like something to adapt to and adjust with. But I think it worked out.
It did work out. I mean, I noticed that too. Just watching it, they seem to have pretty
Mhm.
good chemistry. Where did
Yeah.
you find these actors? I mean, with the budget that you had, how did you go
Yeah.
about casting? How did you go about finding set locations? I mean, I know you were living in LA, but you're from Arizona, and this was what, mostly shot in Arizona?
It's all shot in Arizona.
The
Yeah.
whole thing.
So after COVID, I had moved back to Arizona. So then with the main character Ava, that was like almost a 3 or 4 month process because we had over like 3,000 girls submit to that role, and so it started at 3,000. I think the first round of like self tapes was like 300. Then we cut it down to like 50, 20. And so there was a few rounds, and just kind of seeing the big thing that I look for is, okay, obviously you can act. Let's get through that barrier. Can you act in different emotional ranges? And then with horror, because ideally people aren't like scared in as much in real life, so
Uh
it's not like
huh.
a normal reaction or a normal way to act for somebody. So that's I usually do like scream tests, and to see if people can not only scream in terror but scream in like pain.
Yeah.
And then actually, so then the other two characters, the two male leads, the podcasters, we actually had kind of a big name attached for one of those characters up until a week before we shot the movie, and then they pulled out. Just stuff with SAG and kind of like stuff. So it was really, and so then David, who plays Tommy, he was recommended through a friend, and yeah, I sent him the script I think Saturday, and we were starting to film the next
Oh my
Wednesday.
God.
And he got back to me. He loved the script and everything. And then Mac, who the long haired gentleman who plays Bradley, I had worked with him on other projects before, so I kind of had already known him. Actually, funny enough, the other actor who was supposed to play that character, um, he was like kind of having some scheduling conflicts. So I reached out to Mac like maybe a week or two before and was like, hey, like it might not happen, but there's some scheduling conflicts. I just want you to look at this role and if you're available. And then it turned out that it once we lost the name actor, the other actor was also SAG, so he couldn't do it anymore. So I was like, hey, Mac, that role is actually open.
Wow.
So yeah, we had to cast two leads under a week, and it worked out.
Well, for you personally,
Mhm.
thinking about the true crime genre and wanting to put this together, I mean, do serial killers fascinate you? Was there something that you wanted to convey in the kind of mood and the theme and the even the through the acting to people who
Mhm.
are watching it?
Yeah, they definitely really do fascinate me. I mean, just from a horror perspective, but also a couple of my dad's friends, including the one that ended up being a big investor, they had like run-ins with Gacy back in the day, because we're all from Chicago, and like they, he Casey did his thing in the 70s in Chicago. And so those things kind of like fascinate me, and just also what about the mind of a serial killer do we try to pick at and fixate on, and what makes it so fascinating to us. And I really wanted to create kind of like a clever, fun serial killer that has this kind of presence on and off screen. Um, and so like John Doe from Seven was a really big inspiration, Kevin Spacey's character, just because like how much they build him up off screen,
Yeah.
and then a lot of times when the character actually appears, you're like, I don't know if that's really like the guy you've been hyping up this whole time, like, um, but yeah, so to kind of give this like lore and find out what has been done, what hasn't been done, read actual stories and cases from like people like Dahmer and Bundy and Gacy, and how those guys kind of like, and watch a lot of interviews with them to see how they talk, their mannerisms, how calm they kind of are in interviews.
So you actually
Um,
studied. You studied the way
yeah,
that
yeah, it
they
was,
communicated.
yeah, no, definitely, and same with Anna who plays Ava. She really looked at a lot of that too, because she wanted to, as her character is like a criminology student, and she wants to hunt serial killers and track them. Like she really like dove really deep into all of that as well. So it really, isn't the most fun and like bright and happy research, but
Sure.
um, yeah, yeah.
But it was smart for the theme itself. How'd you come up with the name The Vindicator?
So we went through a lot of different names. Like we knew we wanted it to be kind of this like questionnaire type of game, so we went with like that. And I was like, that's too much like the Riddler. And then we like, there's a part in the movie where like they talk about like the definition of vindicate, and I was like, why don't we try that? And so that's kind of like more or less how it was born. It was like, let's use a thesaurus, and how, but something that like is kind of like a real name that somebody in the paper might call him.
Right.
Uh, yeah, like Jigsaw is like he didn't name himself that, as like the newspapers and the media like kind of named him.
Yeah,
So
kind of
that
like the
was
Zodiac. Well, the Zodiac, I guess, named himself,
Zodiac kind of named himself too. So there's like kind of that.
but you
Yeah,
start to get,
and
yeah,
then it
the
was like
Night
how
Stalker.
far. Yeah, and so kind of like based off or going off the Zodiac thing is like how far can we push or have this character like push the limits and push the boundaries of like, all right, like calling cards or just like calling in, like how far can I like really push somebody to find who I or challenge somebody to find out who I am.
Yeah.
But it's part of their fun and it's part of their game.
So interesting. So when you did all of this, you come up with all of this, you get the actors, you get an investor to put it all together, and you shoot it, and
Mhm.
you guys edit it. Somebody edits it. I imagine at that point, though, you didn't know for a bit where it was going to land in terms of a platform.
Mhm.
So how'd you navigate that? How did it get to Prime and Apple TV?
Yeah, so we actually had we were signed with a different company, a different distribution company before we even shot the movie, because at that time it was just my money that we were going to put into it. So for me, indie films and especially first time films, doing a lot of research, a lot of them just don't see the light of day. Either they run
Yeah.
out of money, they run out of energy, they just don't find distribution, whatever the case was. So when we got the offer, and I tried to do research, I was like, all right, what things to look for? You don't want to just sign with the first person that offers you a deal, and just look at what the questions to ask for. And so I was like, okay, that's taken care of. I can just go make the movie. And the con side of that is, after you make the movie, then you start getting other offers, and you're like, dang, maybe I should have taken that one.
Sure. Yeah.
And then just in after it's edited and stuff, just in the process, they just didn't seem. It just wasn't a good marriage with that company, and the people that they were partnered with were kind of going through like a buyout, and whatever. We were able to sever ties, and so we actually went back to a company that had made us an offer like a few months before, and I was like, "This is the offer I want to take." One of our producers, Chris Mahar, he had worked with them on stuff, so I trusted it, and they have a good kind of catalog and track record. So yeah, they were able to help us out and get it there, and I think it's going to be there for about 90 days, and then on to the next set of platforms. And
Right. And
yeah,
I imagine too, I mean, I know that there's usually like a time frame that it's on each platform.
yeah,
But I assume too, even after that, depending, you guys could also put it on YouTube or, places where people can access it and watch it too.
right, you're right, exactly. Because then it becomes okay. Here's how it performed.
Sure.
On this now we can either renegotiate or re-up or renew it on these different platforms or take it to a bigger one maybe and be like, hey, here's how it's performed.
Sure.
Can we maybe get it on this platform?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How exciting is it for you to see this, to see it on a big platform, to see people, watching it, being excited about it, and just kind of like, I mean, pulling back that layer and kind of behind the curtains here. There's so much that goes into it, the highs and the lows. And you guys, I mean, you faced several obstacles to get here. So how does it feel now, getting to kind of see it in all its glory in front of people?
It's a big big weight off my chest. Like even when the movie was like finished editing, and then we screened it at a couple of theaters just to kind of get some buzz going, but also get some feedback and some eyes
Sure.
on it. Even at that point, you're like, okay, like yes, I just watched it on a big screen, but like it's still not out to the public, and so there's all these kind of anxieties and just like I
Hmm.
just you want to find um, the right company to kind of take you on this next part of the journey, and because that's the next kind of scale. Is like you want it. The whole goal of making a movie is to get people to see it and have people see it. And
Right.
so it was there, it was never there. So now it actually like came out while I was directing my next movie, and so it was kind of like this weird, almost full circle, and kind of look how far ideally I've come like even since then. And yeah, it's been a really good time.
Well, I can't wait to see where you are in like 5 years from now too. I mean, just to have this success in a short amount of time, is pretty incredible. For people who are going to watch it, just a little blurb. What can they expect, and what do you hope that they get out of it if they're viewing it for the first time?
Mhm. I guess don't expect it to be soft. No, but I think it's just more of a look of this is kind of like a older school, like kind of slow burn type of a film, and we wanted to really make it like a character study, and that the horror is more about people than it is like jump scares or supernatural or even the serial killer, and you might not know even if you've known somebody or dating somebody for many years, like you still might not know everything about them. And then just on like the filmmaking side, like I'm a big advocate of just going out and doing it. There's so many platforms out there, which yes, it makes things oversaturated. And how do you choose when there's so many platforms, so much
Yeah.
content on all these platforms? but that also means there's that much more opportunity to go out and get it, get it out somewhere.
Yeah.
And a good movie, regardless where it is, the budget, what platform it's on, like it'll be found somewhere or somehow, even if it takes a lot longer.
Totally, totally. Where can people find you if they want to follow your journey or follow what you're working on? I know you said you're working on your next film already.
Mhm.
What is that, and where can they kind of follow your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty easy to find, just like on social media. But yeah, then the next movie is called Hack Job, and it's a slasher movie, and that one's got its own Instagram. I think it's just Hack Job Film. But we have kind of scaled up a lot, which has been really nice. Like the first movie is very contained, and this movie we've shot all over in Globe, Arizona.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we shot about 18 days so far, and we have, I think, about another week left. And we actually have, I know you're not a horror fan, but the Terrifier movies are like a big in the horror world. So we have an actress, Alexa Blair Robertson, who was a big role in the third one. She's our lead. And then Stacey Nelkin from Halloween 3 back in the 80s. She's also like a kind of a big role in it. But yeah, it's a really, really exciting. I'm excited to make a slasher movie, and we've just like really kind of upped everything, and it's come with its own set of challenges. And
Totally.
so yeah, we're almost done shooting that one.
I take it that one's not about true crime or a podcast.
That one is not about true crime. No, that one follows like a mass killer who goes from small town to small town, and he's kind of fighting his own drug war. So he's kind of in his eyes a vigilante, but from the town's perspective, because they don't know why he's killing or who he's targeting. He's a slasher, and so it becomes like really a kind of like a moral questioning of like who's really the monster here and who's not. So yeah, it's a really, I think, a really good story, and the performances so far have been really, really good. So
well, and if people don't know too, Globe is a pretty small mining town that's known to be haunted, so it's a perfect place to shoot a film.
Perfect place, and it doesn't look like Phoenix, so I mean it's a
not.
really, really cool town. They love like film. We've shot a bunch of stuff up there, and yeah, so it's a really great place to like go film if you want to go shoot something. And it's not too far away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Luca, thanks so much for joining us and sharing a little bit more about the process and everything like that. I know if people want to watch The Vindicator, they can go to Prime, they can go to Apple TV. I found it really interesting, and I'm not a horror person, so I hope everybody goes and watches it. And I appreciate you for coming on the show and sharing more about it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. And our thanks to Luca for that. Super interesting. You can always catch it on Prime Video and Apple TV right now.